Alright guys, well, so the factory sent me an elevator spar that was supposed to be pre-drilled, but isn't. So that means that we have to go through, mark all the holes, and drill them. It's going to be a little bit time consuming, but it's a great opportunity to learn and great experience. So I'm going to take this opportunity to teach you guys a little bit of what I'm learning through this process. So this is what we call a rivet fan. Basically, it makes it very easy to get equally spaced holes. As you're setting this up, usually the plans will tell you something along the lines of 4 A4 rivets, pitch 40. So that means that in this space, there's going to be 4 rivets, the type is A4, and then the pitch is how much distance is between each rivet. So this is set up right now for pitch 25. Since this is from a Canadian company, everything is in metric, so pitch 40 would be 40 millimeters between each rivet. Pitch 25, 25 millimeters between each rivet. So this, on the elevator spar, we're going to space them out for about pitch 25. The important thing to remember when you're working with the pitch, you never want to go to a bigger pitch than what's specified, because that means that the rivets are getting further and further apart, and you don't want that because that's going to weaken the grip that they have. If anything, you want them to get closer. So if you have a pitch 25 but you set them for a pitch 20, that's okay. If you have a pitch 25 and you set them for a pitch 30, that's not good. So this is set up for a pitch 25, and in the what's called interval, so the distance that I have to set these rivets in, it needs to be 4 rivets. So and it's A5 rivets. So 4 A5 rivets, pitch 25, and you want the zenith specifications say you want 10 millimeters from the edge to the first rivet. And I've measured it out, and maybe you can see these silvery lines here from when they machined the piece and cut it. Those lines are roughly 10 millimeters in. So if the first rivet is on that line, we're okay. So I want to get these rivets spaced out as good as I can. So I'm going to line this up. I'm going to take my marker. They highly discourage using a center punch, which is what my first inclination was, because then the center punch sets a little hole so the drill bit can fit right in there, make sure it stays on line. But don't have, I'm messing up my words here. Hopefully I can cut it in post. But the reason they suggest not using a center punch is because you have a chance of dimpling the material around where you do that center punch, especially in something like this, where the material is resting on these flanges. Now if I was working with like a skin or something, I could take a big board, put it under there, and do the center punch, and I'd feel pretty safe that I'm not going to dimple it too much, at least not outside the realm of what's going to be drilled already. But this, I probably will avoid doing the center punch. I'll take my permanent marker, my Sharpie, and mark where those rivets go, and then I will drill after I mark all the rivets. First I'm going to go through, I've got the plans of where all the lines of rivets need to be, so I'm going to go through, mark those lines with a square, just to make sure I keep those lines nice and straight. I'm going to do that with a black Sharpie, and then I'm going to go through and mark where the rivets go on that line with a red Sharpie, so I know where to drill. That's that for now, so I'm going to get to work. I'm going to try leaving the camera in this angle, maybe scoot it back a little bit so it's not in the other camera. We'll see. I just want to get you guys a good view of what I'm doing so you can see exactly how this rivet fan, rivet spacing, and where all this marking is going. If you're further back, you can't really see it as well. So let's see what it's like. Maybe you won't see as much of my belly if I scoot it back a little bit. There we go. All right.
So you guys see me do a lot of finagling and writing. For this, I found a dry erase marker is perfect. I write down all my numbers on the metal, or you guys can see my workbench has a white top. I put on a dry erase board top on my workbench so I can write on my workbench too. See, there's some numbers right there. And so using this dry erase marker, I mark out but I mark out the numbers near where it's going to be, so that as I'm measuring, I don't have to keep going back to my tablet. I can just look at the metal and be like, oh, I wrote the number right here. It's 1,622 millimeters. Again, everything is in millimeters because this kit comes from Canada. Not a big deal. It's actually a lot easier to work with many times. But you see me measure over and over again. I was taught very many times by my dad, measure twice, cut once. So before I drill these holes, I really want to make sure that I'm putting them in the right spot. You can see me right here writing down the distances. One of the things that the plans does, instead of giving you this rivet line is going to be this many millimeters from the end, it gives you this spacing. So the first one is this many millimeters from the end, but then rivet line 2 is this many millimeters from rivet line 1. And so I go through and I do the math so that I can just measure it from the end and then mark it on the tape measure. And then you see me go through here in a little bit, and after I've marked all the rivet lines using my square here to keep the lines straight, I go back and I measure again because I marked those rivet lines measuring from the end, and now that I have them marked, it's a little bit easier for me to go through and take the tape measure and go, okay, is this actually 1,000 millimeters from the other rivet line? Yes, it is. Okay. And so I go through and triple check because I want to make sure I'm drilling these holes in the right place. So I've marked all the lines with the black Sharpie. Now I'm going to go through with my red Sharpie and mark the dots of where I actually want the holes. So I've got the line, meaning rivets go here, and now I'm going to take the rivet spacer, the rivet fan, and use the red Sharpie to say, okay, along this line, this is where those 4 holes need to be. And then that will prep me for being able to actually drill them.
Center line, CO. I'm not sure what this red one's for, but it was on the measurements, so I put it there in a different color so I could tell it apart. Whatever it is, hopefully I'll find out later. Alright guys, so we're getting ready to drill. We've got all these holes marked. Now it's time to drill them. I've switched down from a number 20 drill bit to the smaller number 40 drill bit so I can drill these as pilot holes. So that way I can then line up the ribs and drill the bigger hole without making this hole too big. Because if I drill with the number 30 or number 20 and then come back and drill with the number 20 again, there's a good chance that I'm going to enlarge in this hole just a little more than it should be. So I'm going to go with a smaller bit, make a smaller hole called pilot hole, and then we will be ready to go. Clamp on the rib, drill with the bigger hole, and then, or the bigger drill bit, and it gives us a hole that's the right size. It's not too big. So I mentioned to you guys that I wasn't going to use a center punch to create a divot in the holes. Just in case you guys don't know what a center punch is, this is one type of center punch. So there's a type that is just the post and you hit it with a hammer. This is called an automatic spring-loaded center punch, and I'll show you guys what it does real quick. So basically, you would take your material, you push it against the material, you push hard, hard, gotta switch my grip, and then it ping right there, and it shoves that piece in, gives you a little dent. I don't know if you guys can see that, so that you have a spot for your drill to start in. Like I said, I'm not going to be using that for this. I don't want to damage the material. If I ever have some scrap aluminum, actually I just threw some away, I might test it on that just to see kind of how it works with the aluminum. But I'll show you guys how to do it with just the drill. So we're going to do what Zenith recommends is we're going to put the drill bit where we want the hole to be, and then we're just going to twist the chuck by hand until it removes a little bit of material so that the drill bit's not going to bounce around and shimmy around on the smooth metal. So we're going to place it, twist, let it remove a little bit of material so that it's got a spot to sit in, and then drill. This is my first time doing it, so I'm learning with you guys. Gotta tighten this down a little bit. So, I don't know if you guys can see that. Maybe I need to bring the camera a little closer. There we go. So, you guys can see the hole. Not perfect, but good enough. We'll keep practicing. We got plenty more holes to go. I probably just need to twist the bit by hand a little bit longer to make sure the drill bit doesn't bounce around. So. Let's watch it.
So, lots of plans reading, lots of drilling. That's the name of the game, building an airplane. Rinse, wash, repeat. And do lots of the same thing over and over again. So, that's what you guys are going to see me do. Do lots of drilling. You'll see me stop and read the plans a couple times just to make sure I'm doing things correctly, because I don't want to mess anything up. Otherwise, the rest of this video, you just get to watch me drill. Feel free to have at it if you want. I don't talk to anything more. There's no more learning lessons here. Just lots of drilling, and here I am reading the plans again. Lots of plans reading. So, thanks for joining me again, guys. Thank you for watching. Feel free to subscribe below, like, leave comments. I'd love it if you guys leave comments, have any questions. I'm here for you guys. I want you guys to be able to learn just as I am learning. So, if you have any questions, please throw it down in the comments below. Talk to you later.